Now, page 3, the partial government shutdown, closed for business. Signs are going up all over the country that read temporarily closed due to the partial government shutdown. For the most part, most Americans won't feel the shutdown. However, the media goes where the trouble is, like national parks. So the shutdown is apparently affecting some tourists.
Colorado, and maybe come back out the other side, and hopefully by then the other parks will be open, and if not, well, it's going to be an interesting vacation.
2 weeks down the drain. Going to Utah, Colorado National Park, Rocky Mountain National Park, Mesa Verde National Park, Arches National Park, Canyonlands National Park, Yosemite National Park, Redwoods National Park, Crater Lake National Park, all shut down.
So we came all the way from Minnesota for our anniversary trip, this whole big trip, and we're going to Yellowstone, and there's the sign, the government's closed it. I don't believe it.
Yes, I came all the way from New York to visit, planned the trip for a long time, and now can't.
About 60% of government is non-essential, and those folks are being told to stay home right now. Yet, here we are. The government is still functioning. Plus, keep in mind, the average salary for a federal worker now is $78,000, and the annual median household income in the U.S., $52,000. Joining me now from our bureau in the nation's capital, editorial writer for the Washington Examiner, Ashe Schow. Ashe, I don't even think that the federal government knows exactly how many of its people are furloughed, because they probably have no idea exactly how many total government workers there are.
Right. The reports are differing from agency to agency, from news source to news source. I've heard anywhere from 800,000 to 1 million. I think right now they're kind of settling on 900,000, which might be 43% of the government, might be over 50, might be 60%, as you said. We're just not sure right now. We know each agency is furloughing, and depending on the agency, 99% of NASA has been furloughed, 96% of the Environmental Protection Agency has been furloughed, 95% of the Department of Education has been furloughed. So it also brings up the question, if so many people in the government are being furloughed, why, if they're being classified as non-essential, why are they there anyway? Why even employ them? This might be a great opportunity for Congress to take this opportunity, look at agency by agency, and find out, do we need to bring all these people back? Should we reevaluate spending levels and employment levels? And, that might be a battle that the conservatives can look toward.
I think you have hit the nail on the head. This is a moment in time. Not only is it a battle over Obamacare and budgeting, but it's also possibly a battle over the big picture of government. Do we want this huge behemoth federal government that the founders never had intended to take shape? And this fourth branch of government that acts unilaterally with no accountability to the people, like the EPA, with SWAT teams, like the Department of Education, like the Department of Energy. These guys could go away, and tomorrow we would only be a better nation because of it.
We might, some of these agencies have a few things that if they went away, maybe, people would miss. We look at, the Department of Education, or the Environmental Protection Agency, because of them, the furloughs, they aren't going to be writing their rules. They won't, the comment period for their new source performance standards, the standards that are going to essentially ban new coal plants by regulating them out of existence or inability to actually even be built. Those rules can't be built right now. The comment periods are being delayed. So the EPA being furloughed right now is actually helping the coal industry. So it's actually better that they're furloughed and can't do these things rather than if they were in.
And the important point here, Ashe, is that most of these, if not all of them, are duplicated on the state level. In other words, states have their own environmental departments. And, of course, we know education is divvied out on a state level. Why the federal government even has a Department of Education, I scratch my head over.
Right.
But the federal government historically has been shut down now. This is the 18th time, 17 times prior to this. And if you look post those days, it hasn't been a calamity for either party, and it hasn't been a calamity for the economy.
Right, exactly. And people only want to think about, you know, the shutdown under Clinton. Well, we got years of a balanced budget out of that. We almost got a balanced budget amendment, according to some reports. We look at that lasted 22 days. That was the longest shutdown. People say the mainstream media is trying to make it seem as if only Republicans shut down the government, and that's not true. Jimmy Carter, there were 6 shutdowns under Carter, and he had a Democratic Congress, and his shutdowns lasted between 8 and 17 days. You want to look at Reagan. Reagan had 8 shutdowns in 8 years, and they only lasted 1 to 3 days. So it's a bipartisan issue as far as shutting the government down and opening the government back up. We kind of need to get something. Something needs to change. We can't just keep growing government and spending more. And even if the deficits are going down, we know that they're going to explode again in a few years. We can't go down this path. We're $17 trillion in debt. Something has to change.
And the median salary for a federal worker now is $74,000 a year. That means there's a heck of a lot of people in 6 figures making a nice income when it's supposed to be public service. The last I read, it's called public service. Well, it's not service if you're collecting over $100,000 a year, and that's the kind of stuff that maybe right now is a window in time that we can address those issues.
Right. And we just found out another, I keep going back to the EPA, that's one of my big issues, that the employee that was fired and fined for defrauding, from stealing money from taxpayers, had a higher salary thanks to bonuses than the Vice President of the United States. And there's certain laws that are supposed to protect against that. Yeah. But you're seeing that there's people who work in the White House who have these 6-figure incomes that are approaching or just below what members of Congress make. And it's just, it makes you wonder that maybe, you know, you can't make more than a member of Congress if you're not the actual member, you know, if you're your staff, even if you're chief of staff for the White House. It just seems that it's arbitrary. That and there's also a report out recently, I believe, showing that federal pay, especially in the White House staff under Obama, has greatly increased. You know, he has like a large percentage of his staff, I think it's might be the majority of his staff, that makes 6-figure incomes.
Imagine that.
You just look at that.
Yeah, it's
exactly.
Not terribly surprising. That's public service indeed. Ashe, thanks for joining us. Coming up next, Obamacare and its devastating effects on the American way of life as the Daily Ledger continues.